Ryan Mitchell was a human diplomat stationed at the Catherine Royal Court. It was his first major assignment. His first real responsibility representing humanity to an alien species. He was 28 years old. Had spent 6 years in diplomatic training. Had studied xenobiology and cultural protocols and interspecies communication. Had prepared extensively for this posting. But preparation and actual experience were very different things. Theory and reality rarely matched perfectly. The Catherines were a proud species. That was putting it mildly. They were known throughout the galaxy for being difficult. Easily offended. Quick to take insult. Slow to forgive. They had complicated social hierarchies. Complex cultural rules. Traditions that went back thousands of years. They valued honor above almost everything else. Valued status and respect and proper protocol. And they absolutely did not tolerate disrespect of any kind from anyone for any reason. They were feline-like in appearance. Bipedal but clearly evolved from something cat-like. Covered in fur that ranged from white to black with every shade between. Elegant in their movements. Beautiful by almost any standard. Graceful. Refined. They moved like dancers. Like predators. Like beings who were completely confident in their physical superiority and social position. And they had tails. Long, elegant tails that they could control with remarkable precision. Could curl. Could straighten. Could use for balance or communication or emphasis. The tails were expressive. Showed emotion. Showed mood. Showed status in subtle ways that Ryan was still learning to read. But most importantly, the tails were sacred. Absolutely sacred. Untouchable. That was the very first thing Ryan had been told in his briefing. Before he learned anything else about Catherine culture. Before he studied their history or their language or their customs. The first rule. The most important rule. The one rule that could never be broken under any circumstances. Never touch a Catherine's tail. Ever. For any reason. It is the worst insult possible. Worse than spitting on them. Worse than striking them. Worse than questioning their honor. Touching a Catherine's tail without permission is grounds for immediate expulsion. Possibly execution if the offended party demands it. It is absolutely forbidden. Do you understand? Ryan had memorized that. Had understood it completely. Had respected it. Had been careful for 3 months never to get close to any Catherine's tail. Never to accidentally brush against one. Never to even look at them too directly. He had been perfect. Had made no mistakes. Had followed every protocol exactly as instructed. Until today. Queen Sarah sat on her throne at the far end of the massive audience hall. The throne room was enormous. Designed to impress. Designed to make visitors feel small. High ceilings. Ornate decorations. Hundreds of courtiers lining the walls. All watching. All evaluating. All looking for any sign of weakness or mistake from the human diplomat. Queen Sarah herself was striking. White fur. Pure white. Unmarked. Unusual among her species. It made her stand out. Made her beautiful. Made her intimidating. Golden eyes that seemed to see everything. Long elegant tail curved beside her throne. She was young for a queen. Maybe 30 by Catherine's standards, which translated to roughly Ryan's age in human terms. But she was powerful. Absolutely powerful. Had taken the throne 3 years ago after her mother's death. Had consolidated her rule quickly and efficiently. Had proven herself capable and ruthless when necessary. And today she was apparently looking for a fight. Looking for an excuse. Looking to test this human diplomat. To see what he was made of. To see if humans deserved any respect at all or if they were just another primitive species to be dismissed and ignored. So these are humans, Queen Sarah said. Her voice carried across the entire hall. Clear. Sure. Deliberately loud so everyone could hear. The species that thinks they deserve a place in galactic society. The primitives who have been bothering us with diplomatic requests for trade and cultural exchange. Ryan stood at the appropriate distance from the throne. The protocol required position. Not too close. Not too far. He bowed at the appropriate depth. Spoke with the appropriate formality. We hope to build good relations with the Catherine people, Your Majesty. We believe our species have much to offer each other through cooperation and mutual respect. Relations. Queen Sarah laughed. Sure. Mocking. You speak of relations. Of cooperation. With primitives who only just discovered faster-than-light travel 20 years ago? Who stumbled into the galaxy like children who wandered into an adult conversation? Who have no culture worth speaking of? No art? No refinement? No understanding of how civilized species actually behave? Ryan's jaw tightened. He felt anger starting to rise. But he controlled it. Stayed calm. Stayed professional. This was a test. Obviously a test. She was trying to provoke him. Trying to make him react emotionally. Trying to prove humans were exactly as primitive and uncivilized as she was claiming. He would not give her that satisfaction. "We have rich culture, Your Majesty," Ryan said carefully, keeping his voice level. Keeping his tone respectful despite the insults. "Different from yours perhaps. Younger certainly. But valuable nonetheless. We have art and music and literature. We have philosophy and science and innovation. We are eager to learn from older species like yours. But we also have things to contribute. Things to share. Perspectives that might be valuable precisely because they are different." Different. Queen Sarah stood. Graceful. Smooth. Started walking toward him. Slow steps. Deliberate. Her tail swishing behind her in a pattern Ryan had learned meant irritation. Annoyance. Displeasure. "You mean inferior. You dress up your primitive status with words like different and young and valuable. But what you mean is inferior. Humans are barely civilized animals playing at being people. You have been in space for 2 decades. 2 decades. My species has been traveling the stars for 15,000 years. You think you have anything to teach us? Anything to offer us? You are children. Infants. You do not belong in the same room as actual civilized species." The court watched. Dozens of Ketharan nobles and officials. Watching the human. Watching their queen. Waiting. Some looked amused. Some looked curious. Some looked eager. Eager to see the human fail. Eager to see him break. Eager to prove their queen right about human inferiority. Ryan felt his anger rising higher. Real anger now. Deep anger. She was not just insulting him. She was insulting all of humanity. Insulting his species. Insulting everyone he represented. Calling them animals. Calling them primitive. Calling them worthless. And doing it publicly. Deliberately. With full knowledge of how offensive it was. Testing him. Pushing him. Trying to make him snap. He stayed calm. Took a deep breath. Controlled himself. This was exactly what she wanted. He would not give it to her. Would not react. Would not prove her point. Would stay professional despite the provocation. "We may be young as a spacefaring species, Your Majesty," Ryan said. His voice was tight. Strained. But still controlled. Still respectful. "But we are learning quickly. We are adapting. We are growing. We have already made alliances with several other species. Have established trade. Have contributed to galactic society in meaningful ways. We are not perfect. We are not ancient. But we are here. We are trying. And we deserve basic respect even if we have not earned your admiration." "You deserve nothing," Queen Sarah said. She was close now. Very close. Closer than protocol normally allowed. Close enough that Ryan could see the gold flecks in her eyes. Could smell whatever scent Ketharans naturally produced. Could feel her presence. Her power. Her absolute certainty in her superiority. "You are nothing. Pathetic creatures who have no business among actual civilized species. You should go back to your little blue planet and stay there. Play at being important among yourselves. Stop bothering the rest of us with your delusions of significance." Ryan snapped. Just completely snapped. 3 months of careful diplomacy. 3 months of swallowing insults. 3 months of being patient. Of being professional. Of representing humanity with dignity despite constant mockery and dismissal. It all broke. All at once. In one moment of pure rage. He grabbed her tail. Reached out without thinking. Without planning. Without remembering the rule. The most important rule. The one thing he was never supposed to do under any circumstances. He grabbed Queen Sarah's tail hard. With anger. With frustration. With all the rage he had been suppressing for months. The entire court gasped. Collective sharp intake of breath. Hundreds of Ketharans reacting simultaneously. Collective horror. Collective shock. Collective absolute disbelief at what they had just witnessed. Time seemed to freeze. Everything stopped. Everyone stopped. The whole room held its breath. Waiting. Processing. Unable to comprehend what had just happened. Ryan realized what he had done a second too late. Felt the soft fur in his hand. Felt the elegant tail he was gripping. Saw the shock on Queen Sarah's face. Saw the absolute terror in the guard's eyes. Saw every courtier frozen in horrified disbelief. "You never touch a Ketharan's tail," someone shouted from the crowd. Horrified. Outraged. Stating the obvious. Stating the rule everyone knew. The rule that had just been violated in the most public way possible. Ryan let go immediately. Dropped the tail like it burned him. Stepped back. horror replacing anger. I apologize, Your Majesty, I was not thinking, But the words were hollow. The damage was done. The insult was delivered. The worst possible violation had occurred. In the throne room. In front of the entire court. Witnessed by hundreds. A human diplomat had grabbed the queen's tail. Had committed the ultimate offense. Had violated her in the most profound way possible in Catherine culture. The room erupted. Shouts. Outrage. Guards drawing weapons. Courtiers calling for execution. For expulsion. For war. For anything and everything that could possibly punish this unprecedented insult. Ryan stood frozen. Knowing his career was over. Possibly his life was over. Possibly human-Catherine relations were over. All because he had lost his temper. All because she had pushed him just far enough. All because he had forgotten the one rule that could never be broken. Queen Sarah stood completely still. Unmoving. Not reacting. Not speaking. Just standing there. Frozen. Her expression was strange. Not angry. Not outraged. Something else. Something Ryan could not read. Something that made no sense given what had just happened. The guards advanced. Ready to kill him. Ready to defend their queen's honor. Ready to punish this violation. And everything hung in balance. Every possibility. Every outcome. All depending on what happened in the next few seconds. Ryan had made a mistake. The worst mistake possible. And now he would face whatever consequences came. Whatever punishment was deemed appropriate. Whatever price had to be paid for forgetting that one simple rule. Never touch a Catherine's tail. He had broken it. And now everything would change. Everyone in the throne room expected execution. Expected immediate violent punishment. Expected the queen to order the human's death right there in front of everyone. The human had committed the ultimate offense. The worst possible violation of Catherine culture. Had touched the queen's tail. Had grabbed it. Had violated her in the most profound way their society recognized. There was no precedent for mercy in a situation like this. No possibility of forgiveness. No outcome except death or expulsion or possibly war. The guards were already moving. Already drawing their weapons. Energy weapons that hummed as they powered up. Blades that gleamed in the throne room light. They advanced toward Ryan with absolute certainty of purpose. They would kill him. They had to kill him. He had violated their queen. Had dishonored her. Had committed an act so offensive that death was the only possible response. Their faces showed rage. Showed determination. Showed the absolute conviction that they were about to execute justice. But Queen Sarah stood frozen. Completely still. Not moving at all. Not breathing visibly. Not reacting. Just frozen in place like a statue. Like time had stopped for her. Like something had short-circuited in her brain and left her unable to process what had just happened. Her expression was blank. Empty. Not showing the rage everyone expected. Not showing the outrage that should have been there. Just blank. Empty. Frozen. The guards were 3 steps from Ryan. Weapons raised. Ready to strike. Ready to kill. Ready to defend their queen's honor with his blood. Stay, Queen Sarah said. One word. Single syllable. Spoken quietly. Almost whispered. But it carried absolute command. Absolute authority. The kind of voice that could not be disobeyed. The kind of order that stopped people mid-motion. The kind of power that came from someone who ruled absolutely and expected instant obedience without question. The guards stopped. Froze mid-step. Weapons still raised. Still ready. But stopped. Confused. Looking at their queen. Waiting for clarification. Waiting to understand. Why was she not ordering the human's death? Why was she protecting him? Why was she stopping them from defending her honor? She turned slowly to face Ryan. Her movements were strange. Stiff. Like she was fighting her own body. Like moving required enormous effort. Like something was wrong. Very wrong. Her eyes were different. Changed. Her pupils were dilated. Massive. Her golden irises reduced to thin rings around huge black circles. Her expression was strange. Not angry. Not outraged. Something else entirely. Something Ryan could not identify. Something that made no sense given what had just happened. Leave us, Queen Sarah commanded. Her voice was rough. Strained. Like speaking required effort. Like each word was difficult. Everyone. All of you. Now. Leave the throne room immediately. Your Majesty, one of her senior advisors started to protest. An older Catherine with gray fur. Someone who clearly felt comfortable questioning the queen. Someone who had probably served her mother. Who felt entitled to speak. Your Majesty, this human has violated you. We cannot leave you alone with... Out. Queen Sarah's voice cracked, broke, rose to a shout that echoed through the enormous throne room. All of you, leave. Now. This is not a request. This is a command. Get out of my sight. All of you. Immediately. The court evacuated. Had no choice. Could not disobey a direct command from their queen even when that command made no sense. Even when every instinct said staying was the right thing to do. Even when leaving her alone with the human who had just violated her seemed insane. They left. Hundreds of courtiers. Dozens of guards. All the advisors and officials and nobles who filled the throne room. All filing out. Moving quickly. Some looking back. Some whispering. Some clearly confused and terrified. What was happening? Why was their queen acting this way? Why was she protecting the human instead of having him executed? Why was she sending everyone away? The massive doors closed. Heavy. Final. The sound echoed through the now empty throne room. Ryan stood alone with Queen Sarah. Heart pounding so hard he could hear it. Feel it? His whole body was shaking with adrenaline. With fear. With the absolute certainty that he had destroyed everything. His career. His mission. Possibly humanity's future relationship with an entire species. All because he had lost control for 1 second. 1 moment. One stupid angry reaction to deliberate provocation. Queen Sarah was shaking too. But not with rage. Not with the anger Ryan expected. With something else. Something different. Her whole body was trembling. Visibly trembling. Her tail was twitching. Moving in patterns that looked involuntary. Like she had lost control of it. Her breathing was fast. Too fast. Shallow. Rapid. Like she was hyperventilating. Like she was having some kind of physical reaction to what had happened. But not anger. Not rage. Something else. Do you know what you have done? Queen Sarah whispered. Her voice was barely audible. Shaking. Strained. She was not looking at him. Was staring at the floor. Her hands were clenched into fists. Her whole body rigid with tension. I apologize, Your Majesty, Ryan said quickly. Words tumbling out. Desperate. I was angry. You were insulting my species. My people. I lost control. I did not think. I did not mean to violate you. I did not mean any disrespect. I know that touching your tail is forbidden. I know the rule. I lost control. I'm so sorry. I will accept whatever punishment you deem appropriate. I will. You have bonded me, Queen Sarah interrupted. Her voice was still strange. Still strained. Still shaking. The tail. It is not just sacred. It is not just a cultural taboo. It is not just about respect or tradition or honor. It is biological. The tail. It is how we bond. How we choose mates. How we form pair bonds that last for life. Ryan's brain stopped. Just completely stopped processing. The words made no sense. Bonded? Mates? What was she talking about? What? He managed to say. Single word. Barely more than a breath. Tail touch, Queen Sarah said. She was still shaking. Still not looking at him. Still staring at the floor like she could not bear to meet his eyes. By a potential mate. By someone we are biologically compatible with. It triggers bonding response. Chemical response in our brains. In our bodies. Releases hormones. Creates neural pathways. Forms attachment. It is biological. Chemical. Irreversible. Ancient instinct from when my species was less civilized. From when we relied on biology instead of choice to form pair bonds. We have not completely evolved past it. The instinct is still there. Still active. Still powerful. I was not trying to. Ryan could not form coherent sentences. Could not process what she was saying. Could not understand the implications. Intent does not matter, Queen Sarah said. She finally looked at him. Her eyes were still strange. Pupils still dilated. But there was something else there now. Something vulnerable. Something scared. Biology does not care why you touched. Does not care about your intentions or your anger or your lack of knowledge. Just that you did touch. Just that physical contact was made. My body registered it. Processed it. Recognized you as compatible. Triggered the bonding response. My brain is flooding with hormones right now. Oxytocin. Dopamine. Serotonin. All the chemicals associated with pair bonding. With attachment. With mate selection. My body thinks you are my chosen mate now. My biology has decided. Without my consent. Without my choice. Just decided. Ryan felt sick. Actually physically sick. His stomach churned. His head spun. Can we reverse it? Can we undo it? Is there medicine or treatment or? No, Queen Sarah said. Simple. Final. Absolute. The bond is triggered. Once triggered, it cannot be reversed. Cannot be undone. Cannot be stopped. It is permanent. I am bonded to you now. I am biologically bonded to you. A human. A species I just spent 10 minutes publicly insulting and humiliating. A species I called primitive and uncivilized and barely worthy of notice. And now my body has decided you are my mate. Forever. For the rest of my life. This is permanent. This is irreversible. This is done. I am so sorry, Ryan said. He meant it. Completely meant it. This was a nightmare. He had not just insulted her. Had not just violated cultural protocol. Had done something far worse. Had trapped her in a biological bond she never wanted. With someone she hated. With someone from a species she despised. I am so incredibly sorry. I did not know. I did not mean. Sorry does not help, Queen Sarah said. She sat down heavily on the steps leading to her throne. Collapsed really. Like her legs would not hold her anymore. Sorry changes nothing. The bond is formed. The damage is done. I'm stuck with this now. Stuck with you. Stuck with these feelings that are already starting. Already taking root. I can feel it happening. Can feel my brain rewiring itself. Can feel attachment forming. Affection developing. Not because I want it. Not because I choose it. Because my biology demands it. Because evolution programmed this response thousands of years ago and we never fully lost it. Ryan understood then. Fully understood the magnitude of what he had done. This was not just a diplomatic incident. Not just a cultural violation. This was something far more personal. Far more profound. He had accidentally trapped this woman in a biological bond with someone she had been actively trying to provoke into failing. Someone from a species she clearly did not respect. Someone she had never wanted any connection with. Do you understand the political situation? Queen Sarah asked. She was looking at him now. Really looking. Her eyes were clearer. The shock was fading. Reality was setting in. I am the queen. Bonded to a human diplomat. My council will lose their minds when they find out. They will demand I reject the bond. Which is biologically impossible. Or they will demand I execute you for violating me. Which would cause me intense suffering because the bonded cannot harm each other. The biology will not allow it. Or they will demand we declare war on humanity for this violation. For sending a diplomat who assaulted their queen. Which would be catastrophic for both our species. There is no good outcome here. None. Every option is terrible. Ryan understood. He had just started a diplomatic nightmare. Possibly started a war. All because he had lost his temper for 1 second. All because he had forgotten one simple rule. All because he had let his anger control him instead of maintaining professional discipline. What do we do? Ryan asked. His voice was small. Defeated. He had no answers. No solutions. No way to fix this. I do not know, Queen Sarah said quietly. Honestly. Her voice was empty. Exhausted. I honestly do not know. This has never happened before. There is no precedent. No protocol. No established response. I need to think. Need to figure out our options. Need to understand what this bond actually means and what consequences it creates. But right now I have no idea what we do. No idea how to fix this. No idea if this can even be fixed. They sat in silence. Queen and diplomat. Bonded accidentally. Connected biologically against both their wills. Facing an impossible situation. Facing political disaster. Facing personal catastrophe. And neither had any idea what came next. Sarah explained while they waited in the empty throne room. While servants were sent to summon the council. While guards were posted outside the doors with strict orders that no one entered until the Queen commanded it. While the political machinery of the Catherine government prepared for an emergency session. While word spread through the palace about what had happened. While rumors and speculation and horror spread through every corridor and chamber. They waited. And Sarah explained. Because Ryan needed to understand. Needed to know what he had actually done. Needed to comprehend the full scope of the situation before the council arrived and everything became official and political and impossibly complicated. Catherine's bond for life, Sarah said. She was pacing now. Back and forth across the throne room floor. Her tail swishing behind her in agitated patterns. Nervous patterns. Stressed patterns. One mate. Forever. That is our biology. That is how our species evolved. Monogamous pair bonding. Permanent. Unbreakable. When we bond with someone, we bond completely. Chemically, neurologically, emotionally. Our brains literally rewire themselves to prioritize our bonded mate above everything else. Above our own survival sometimes. It is powerful. It is absolute. It is permanent. And the tail is the trigger, Ryan said. Trying to understand. Trying to process information that seemed impossible. That seemed too strange to be real. Yes, the tail. Sarah touched her own tail briefly. Self-conscious gesture. Protective gesture. It is not just a body part. It is deeply connected to our limbic system. To the parts of our brain that control emotion and instinct and bonding. When someone we are compatible with touches our tail, the signal goes directly to those brain regions. Triggers immediate chemical response. Releases massive amounts of bonding hormones. Creates instant attachment. It was probably a survival mechanism originally. Quick mate selection. Immediate bonding. Ensured reproduction and child-rearing cooperation. We have evolved past needing it. We have choice now. We have technology and medicine and society. But the instinct remains. The biological trigger remains. And it is powerful. Overwhelming. Impossible to ignore or suppress. Compatible, Ryan said. Focusing on that word. You said when someone compatible touches it. What does that mean? How do you know if someone is compatible? Only certain species can trigger the bond, Sarah explained. She stopped pacing. Turned to face him. Most species cannot. Their biology is too different from ours. Their chemistry does not match. Their pheromones are wrong. Their genetic structure is incompatible. Most species who touch a Catherine's tail trigger nothing. No response. No chemical reaction. Nothing. It would just be an insult. A terrible insult. A violation of our cultural rules. But nothing biological. Nothing permanent. Just offense that could be apologized for or punished or resolved through diplomacy. But humans can trigger it, Ryan said slowly. Understanding dawning. Humans are compatible with Catherines. Yes. Sarah laughed. Bitter laugh. Harsh laugh. Laugh with no humor in it. Of course humans can. Of all the species in this galaxy. Of all the possibilities. Humans are compatible with us. Your pheromones apparently match our receptors. Your chemistry triggers our bonding response. Your biology works with ours in exactly the wrong way. That is just my luck. Just my absolutely perfect terrible luck. How do you know? Ryan asked. How do you know humans are compatible? Has this happened before? Has anyone studied it? Because I am sitting here bonded to you instead of ordering your execution, Sarah said bluntly. That is how I know. If you were not compatible, your touch would have been just an insult. Terrible insult. Worst possible insult. But just cultural violation. Just offense. I would have been furious. Would have had you expelled. Possibly executed depending on my mood and political considerations. But I would not be bonded. Would not be feeling what I am feeling right now. Would not be experiencing this chemical storm in my brain. But I am. I am bonded. Therefore you are compatible. Therefore humans can trigger Catherine bonding. Therefore we just discovered something no one knew. In the worst possible way. Ryan processed that information. Tried to wrap his mind around it. So because I am compatible I accidentally bonded you when I grabbed your tail. Yes. Exactly. Perfectly summarized. You grabbed my tail in anger. Your chemistry matched my biology. The trigger was pulled. The bond formed. Instant. Irreversible. Permanent. Done. And this bond is irreversible, Ryan said. Confirming. Making sure he understood. Completely irreversible. No medicine. No surgery. No way to undo it. Completely irreversible, Sarah confirmed. The chemical changes are permanent. The neural pathways that form cannot be undone. The attachment that develops cannot be erased. Catherines who lose their bonded mates suffer for the rest of their lives. Depression. Anxiety. Physical illness. Many die young. Their bodies literally cannot handle the loss. That is how powerful the bond is. That is how permanent. There is no reversing this. No going back. No undoing what happened. I am bonded to you. Forever. For the rest of my life. Whether I want it or not. Whether you want it or not. Whether it makes any sense or causes any number of problems. It is done. And you did not want this, Ryan said quietly. Stating the obvious. Acknowledging the reality. You did not choose this. Did not want to bond with anyone. Certainly not with a human. Not with someone from a species you clearly do not respect. No, Sarah said. Honest. Blunt. No reason to lie about it now. I did not want this. I was not looking to bond. I am young. I am focused on ruling, on consolidating my power, on managing my kingdom. I was not interested in mating or bonding or relationships. And I certainly was not interested in humans. I was testing you, pushing you, deliberately provoking you. I wanted you to fail. Wanted you to lose control. Wanted to prove that humans were not civilized enough to handle diplomatic relations with superior species. That you were exactly as primitive and emotional and uncontrolled as I claimed. I wanted you to fail so I could justify rejecting human diplomatic overtures. So I could keep your species at distance. Keep us separate. Keep the Ketherans pure and untainted by primitive influences. She laughed again. Same bitter sound. And instead you did exactly what I wanted. You lost control. You reacted emotionally. You grabbed my tail in anger. Proved you were exactly as primitive as I claimed. And in doing so you bonded me. Trapped me in exactly the situation I was trying to avoid. Forced me into connection with your species. Made me dependent on you. Made me need you. The irony is almost funny. Almost. If it was not also completely catastrophic. I am sorry, Ryan said. Again. Knowing it was useless. Knowing it changed nothing. But feeling compelled to say it anyway. I did not know. I did not understand. I should have controlled myself. Should have maintained discipline. Should have. Stop apologizing, Sarah interrupted. Stop saying sorry. It does not help. It changes nothing. What is done is done. Sorry does not reverse biology. Does not undo chemical bonds. Does not erase the situation we are in. We need to focus on what happens next. On how we handle this. On how we manage the political disaster that is about to explode. She resumed pacing. Moving helped her think. Helped her process. Helped her manage the stress and fear and chemical chaos happening in her brain. The council will demand your death. Or your expulsion. Or war. They will not accept this. Will not accept their queen bonded to a human. Will not accept the possibility of human influence on the throne. Will not accept anything except your removal from this situation by any means necessary. What do you want? Ryan asked. Simple question. Direct question. Because at the end of the day she was the one affected. She was the one trapped. She was the one whose biology had been hijacked against her will. What do you actually want to happen here? Not politically. Not strategically. What do you personally want? Sarah stopped pacing. Looked at him. Really looked at him. Studied his face. His expression. His obvious guilt and concern and confusion. What I want does not matter, she said finally. What I want is irrelevant. The bond does not care what I want. It is already done. Already forming. Already taking root in my brain. I can feel it. Can feel the attachment growing. Can feel myself starting to care about you. Starting to worry about your safety. Starting to prioritize your well-being. Not because I choose to. Not because I decided to. Because my biology is forcing me to. Because evolution programmed this response and I have no control over it. What I want does not matter anymore. The bond has decided for me. The council arrived before Ryan could respond. The massive throne room doors opened. 20 Ketheran officials filed in. The highest-ranking members of government. The advisors and ministers and nobles who actually ran the kingdom. They looked furious. Absolutely furious. Outraged. Horrified. Scandalized. They had been informed of what happened. Had been told the human diplomat touched the queen's tail. Had been summoned for emergency session. They were ready to demand blood. Ready to demand justice. Ready to demand whatever punishment was necessary to restore their queen's honor and dignity. They were exactly as angry as Ryan had expected. As anyone would have expected. This was the nightmare scenario. The worst possible outcome. The thing every diplomat feared. Cultural violation so profound it could start wars. He defiled you, one counselor shouted immediately. Old male. Gray fur. Senior advisor. Probably served Sarah's mother. Voice full of rage and horror. He touched your tail. Violated you in the most profound way. This human must be executed immediately. His death is the only possible response. The only way to restore your honor. He touched my tail, Sarah corrected. Her voice was calm now. Controlled. She had shifted into queen mode. Into political mode. Into the version of herself that ruled a kingdom. That is accurate. But that is not defilement. That is not violation in the way you mean. That is claiming. That is bonding. That is mate selection. The bond is triggered. I am bonded to him. The council went silent. Stunned. Processing. Understanding dawning. Horror of a different kind replacing their initial outrage. No, someone whispered. No, that is impossible. He is human. Humans cannot trigger the bond. They are too different. Too alien. Too. Apparently they can, Sarah said firmly. Because I am bonded. The chemical response is active. The attachment is forming. Biology does not lie. I am bonded to this human. Permanently. Irreversibly. Completely. By a human, another counselor shouted. Female. Middle-aged. Minister of something. Horrified. Disgusted. Our queen bonded to a primitive species. To animals who barely understand civilization. This is unacceptable. This cannot stand. We must find a way to reverse it. Must break the bond. Must. Species is irrelevant, Sarah said. Her voice was hard now. Commanding. Absolute. The bond is sacred. You all know that. Every Catherine knows that. The bond is absolute. Our oldest law. Our most fundamental cultural value. Once bonded, the pair is recognized. Protected. Honored. Regardless of circumstances. Regardless of how the bond formed. Regardless of whether it was chosen or accidental. The bond is sacred. That is our law. That is our tradition. That is what we have believed for thousands of years. But he is human, someone repeated. Unable to get past that fact. Unable to accept it. And I am bonded to him, Sarah said. What would you have me do? Kill my bonded mate? Execute the person my biology has chosen? Violate our most sacred law? Break our oldest tradition? Dishonor everything our culture claims to value? The bond is absolute. You taught me that. My mother taught me that. Our entire society is built on that principle. So tell me, what would you have me do? They had no answer for that. No response. No solution. Because she was right. The bond was sacred in Catherine culture. Absolutely sacred. More sacred than anything except perhaps life itself. To violate a bond. To harm a bonded mate. To interfere with a bonded pair. Those were the worst crimes imaginable in their society. Worse than murder. Worse than treason. Worse than anything. And their queen was bonded. To a human. Accidentally. Irreversibly. Completely. And their own laws and traditions and cultural values gave them no way to fix it. No way to undo it. No way to remove the human without violating everything they claimed to believe. They were trapped. All of them. By biology and culture and tradition. By the very values they claimed to uphold. By the sacred nature of the bond they all supposedly revered. Trapped in an impossible situation with no good solutions and no way forward that did not violate something fundamental. And Ryan stood there. The human who had accidentally bonded their queen. Who had created this disaster. Who had triggered this crisis. Who had changed everything. With one angry moment. One loss of control. One grab of a tail he should never have touched. He had created an impossible situation. And now everyone had to live with the consequences. The council demanded Ryan's execution anyway despite everything Sarah had said. Despite the law. Despite the tradition. Despite the sacred nature of the bond they all supposedly revered. They demanded his death. Demanded blood. Demanded punishment for what he had done regardless of whether it violated their own cultural values. Fear and outrage and disgust overpowered everything else. Overpowered reason. Overpowered their own laws. They wanted the human gone. Wanted this problem eliminated. Wanted their queen freed from this impossible situation by any means necessary. Accident or not, he violated our queen, the senior counselor said. The old male with gray fur. The one who had served Sarah's mother. His voice was hard. Final. Allowing no argument. He touched her tail without permission. Without right. Without any justification. That is violation. That is assault. That is crime worthy of death regardless of any biological consequences. He must be executed. Immediately. Today. Before this scandal spreads. Before other species learn what happened. Before our queen's honor is further damaged by association with this primitive. Sarah refused. Flat refusal. Absolute refusal. No negotiation. No compromise. The bond is sacred. He is mine now. Bonded to me. Connected to me. Part of me in ways you cannot fully understand unless you have experienced bonding yourselves. You cannot harm him. Our law forbids it. Our tradition forbids it. Our culture forbids it. To harm a bonded mate is the worst crime in our society. Worse than murder. Worse than treason. Worse than anything. You know this. You all know this. You cannot demand I violate our most sacred law just because you are uncomfortable with who my biology chose. He defiled you, another counselor shouted. Female. Younger. Furious. Voice shaking with rage. He grabbed you. Violated you. Assaulted you. That is not bonding. That is not mate selection. That is violence. That is crime. He should die for what he did regardless of any biological response it triggered. Death is the only appropriate punishment. He claimed me, Sarah said. Her voice was calm, steady. Queen voice. Ruler voice. The voice that commanded absolutely and expected obedience. There is a difference. Defilement implies unwanted violation with no purpose except harm. Claiming implies mate selection even if accidental. Even if unintentional. Even if neither party wanted it. The biology recognized his action as claiming. As mate touch. As bond trigger. That makes it different. That makes it sacred. That protects him under our law whether you like it or not. Ryan stepped forward. He had been standing quietly, letting Sarah defend him, letting her handle the political aspects. But he could not stay silent anymore. Could not let her fight alone. Could not let this continue without offering a solution. I will leave, he said, speaking directly to the council, meeting their angry gazes. I will go back to Earth. Will resign my diplomatic position. Will never return to Kethrin space. Will never contact Queen Sarah again. Will remove myself completely from this situation. Would that satisfy you? Would that solve the problem? Would that restore the honor you feel has been lost? No, Sarah said immediately, before anyone else could respond, before the council could agree, before Ryan's offer could be accepted. Just flat refusal. Instant and absolute. Why not? Ryan asked. He turned to look at her. Confused. She wanted him gone. She had made that clear. She had not wanted this bond. Had not wanted him. Had spent the morning insulting his entire species. Why would she refuse his offer to leave? To remove himself? To give her freedom? She looked at him. Her expression was vulnerable. More vulnerable than he had seen before. More open. More honest. The queen mask slipped. Showed the person underneath. The woman trapped by her own biology. The bond does not work that way, she said quietly. It is not just emotional attachment. It is physical need. Chemical dependency. Biological requirement. The bonded need to be together. Need proximity. Need contact. It is not optional. It is not something I can choose to ignore or overcome through willpower. Separation from bonded mate causes suffering. Real physical suffering. Pain. Illness. Depression. Anxiety. Physical symptoms that get worse over time. The bonded cannot be separated without severe consequences. Ryan felt guilt crash over him like a wave. Physical sensation. Heavy. Crushing. He had done this to her. Had trapped her in biological dependency on him. On someone she did not want. Did not choose. Did not even like. How much pain, he asked. Needing to know. Needing to understand the full scope of what he had done. How much suffering would you experience if I left? A lot, Sarah said. She did not elaborate. Did not explain details. Did not describe symptoms. Just stated the simple truth. Lot of pain. Significant suffering. Enough to matter. Enough to be a real consideration. Enough that she could not casually dismiss his offer to leave even though she wanted him gone. What if I stayed? Ryan asked. The idea forming as he spoke. The only real solution to an impossible problem. What if I accepted the bond? Accepted the situation? Learned your culture? Your customs? Your language? Your traditions? Tried to be a proper bonded mate according to Kethrin's standards? Tried to make this work instead of running away from it? Would that be acceptable? The council exploded. Multiple voices. Shouting. Overlapping. Incoherent rage. A human as the queen's bonded mate? Absolutely unacceptable. This cannot be allowed. Our queen bonded to a primitive. The throne contaminated by alien influence. This violates everything. We cannot allow this. The voices blended together. Pure outrage. Pure refusal. Pure horror at the suggestion. Our law is clear, Sarah said. Her voice cut through the chaos. Command voice. Queen voice. Absolute authority that demanded silence and got it. The bond is the bond. Species does not matter. Our ancestors made that law specifically. Deliberately. Intentionally. To prevent discrimination based on superficial differences. To ensure the bond was respected regardless of circumstances. If the bond accepts someone, then society accepts them. That is our way. That is our tradition. That is our law. You do not get to ignore it just because you dislike who my biology chose. But tradition, someone started. Says the bonded pair is sacred, Sarah interrupted. Protected by law. Honored by society. Supported by community. That is tradition. That is what our culture has valued for thousands of years. The bonded pair is inviolate. Cannot be separated. Cannot be harmed. Cannot be questioned. That is our most fundamental cultural value. You do not get to suddenly decide it does not apply because the bonded pair includes a human. Law does not work that way. Tradition does not work that way. You cannot have it both ways. Either the bond is sacred or it is not. Either our laws matter or they do not. Which is it? Silence. No one had an answer. No one could argue with her logic. She was right. Their own laws, their own traditions, their own cultural values gave them no room to refuse. Gave them no legitimate argument. They were trapped by their own principles. Sarah looked at Ryan. Her expression was complex, uncertain, vulnerable. But it is his choice, she said. I will not force him. Cannot force him. The bond is triggered on my side. My biology has decided. My chemistry has activated. My brain has begun the bonding process. But he is human. He is not bonded. Not yet. Not unless he chooses to accept it. To stay. To commit. He has to accept this willingly. Has to choose to stay. Has to decide for himself whether this is something he can live with. I cannot and will not force him. That would be wrong. That would be cruel. That would make me no better than someone who forces unwanted bonds through violence or coercion. Everyone looked at Ryan. The entire council. Queen Sarah. Every set of eyes in the throne room. All waiting. All watching. All expecting him to refuse. To run. To take the easy way out. To choose his freedom over her suffering. To prioritize his own comfort over her needs. That was what they expected from a human. From a primitive. From someone who they believed lacked true civilization. They expected him to be selfish. To be cruel. To be exactly as primitive as they claimed. Ryan thought about it. Really thought. Not just reacting. Not just responding emotionally. Actually considered the situation. The implications. The reality. He had caused this. His anger. His loss of control. His action. He had grabbed her tail. Had triggered this bond. Had trapped this woman in a biological situation she never wanted. With someone she had been actively insulting minutes before he touched her. With someone from a species she clearly did not respect. He had done this to her. Through his own failure. His own lack of discipline. His own inability to control his temper when provoked. He could not just leave. Could not just walk away. Could not abandon her to suffer because of his mistake. Because of his action. Because of his failure. That would be wrong. That would be cruel. That would be exactly as selfish and primitive as they all believed humans were. He had caused this disaster. He had created this impossible situation. He had trapped her. The least he could do was stay. Was try. Was take responsibility for what he had done instead of running away and leaving her to deal with the consequences alone. I will stay, Ryan said. Clear. Firm. Certain. I caused this situation. I will take responsibility for it. I will learn your culture. Your customs. Your traditions. Your expectations. I will try to be a good bonded mate by Catherine's standards. I will try to make this work instead of abandoning you to suffer. I'm sorry I did this to you. Sorry I trapped you. Sorry I took away your choice. But I will not make it worse by abandoning you. I will stay. I will try. I will do whatever is necessary to minimize the harm I have caused. Something flickered in Sarah's eyes. Surprise. She had not expected that. Had expected him to refuse. To leave. To choose himself over her. Had expected selfishness. Instead got responsibility. Got commitment. Got someone willing to stay despite the impossibility of the situation. Are you certain? She asked. Giving him chance to reconsider. Giving him opportunity to change his mind. This is permanent. This is forever. Once you accept the bond, it will trigger on your side as well. You will be as trapped as I am. As dependent. As connected. You will not be able to leave later. Cannot change your mind in a week or month or year. This is permanent decision. Are you absolutely certain? No, Ryan admitted. Honest. Blunt. I'm not certain. I'm terrified actually. Terrified of what this means. Terrified of the responsibility. Terrified of failing. terrified of making your situation worse instead of better. But I am staying anyway. Because it is the right thing to do. Because I caused this. Because you deserve better than being abandoned to suffer because I lost my temper. I am staying. Not because I am certain. Because it is right. Something else flickered in her eyes. Respect maybe. Understanding possibly. Recognition that he was choosing honor over comfort. Responsibility over escape. Her over himself. That mattered. That meant something. Even if she did not want this bond. Even if she wished it had never happened. The fact that he was staying. That he was choosing responsibility. That he was putting her needs above his desires. That mattered. The council protested. Argued. Shouted. Threatened. Made every argument they could think of. Species differences. Cultural incompatibility. Political disaster. Scandal. Dishonor. Everything. Every reason Ryan should be expelled or executed or removed from consideration. Every justification for ignoring their own laws and traditions. Everything except legitimate legal argument because they had none. Sarah shut them down. Final. Absolute. Queen voice at full power. The decision is made. Ryan Mitchell is my bonded mate. Protected by our laws. Honored by our traditions. Recognized by our society. You will accept this or you will challenge me for the throne. Those are your options. Accept my bonded or challenge my rule. Choose. No one challenged her. No one dared. She was young but she was powerful. She was popular with the people. She had consolidated her rule efficiently. She had proven herself capable. Challenging her would be political suicide. Would be actual suicide possibly. No one was willing to risk it. Not over this. Not over a human bonded. Not when she was standing on solid legal ground. The council left. Angry. Outraged. Defeated. But they left. Accepted the decision. Accepted Ryan. Accepted the impossible situation because their own laws gave them no choice. Ryan and Sarah stood alone in the throne room again. Bonded. Committed. Trapped together by biology and choice and responsibility in law. Neither had wanted this. But both were choosing to make it work. To try. To take an impossible situation and find a way forward. Thank you, Sarah said quietly. For staying. For taking responsibility. For choosing honor over comfort. That matters. That means something. Even if I did not want this bond. Even if I wish it had never happened. The fact that you are staying matters. Thank you for not having me executed, Ryan said. Attempted humor. Weak humor but humor. Trying to ease the tension. I appreciate being alive. Makes everything else more manageable. Sarah almost smiled. The bond would not let me harm you. Even if I wanted to. Even before you accepted it. The chemistry is already too strong. But I appreciate the sentiment. They stood together. Bonded by accident. Connected by biology. Committed by choice. Facing an impossible future. But facing it together. That was something. That was a start. That was all they could ask for given the circumstances. And somehow they would make it work. Somehow they would find a way. Because that was what honor demanded. What responsibility required. What the bond would eventually create whether they wanted it or not. Together. For better or worse. Forever. Ryan and Sarah navigated the bonding process together over the following weeks and months. It was awkward at first. Incredibly awkward. Neither had wanted this situation. Neither had chosen this path. Neither had any romantic interest in each other. They were essentially strangers who had been forced together by biology and accident and political necessity. Strangers from completely different species. Different cultures. Different worlds. Different everything. Bound together by a tail grab made in anger during an argument. It was the worst possible foundation for any kind of relationship. The least romantic origin story imaginable. An accident. A mistake. A moment of lost control that had permanent life-altering consequences for both of them. But the bond created connection despite the awkwardness. Real connection that neither could deny or ignore even when they wanted to. The bond was not just emotional attachment or legal obligation. It was chemical. Biological. Neurological. It rewired their brains. Changed their chemistry. Created pathways that had not existed before. They felt each other's emotions. Actually felt them. When Sarah was stressed, Ryan felt tension in his own chest. When Ryan was anxious, Sarah felt unease in her stomach. They sensed each other's presence. Could tell when the other was nearby even without seeing them. Could feel the other person's proximity like a warmth. Like a pull. Like a compass always pointing toward their bonded mate. They knew when the other was upset or happy or scared or content. could not hide feelings, could not pretend, could not lie about emotional states because the bond made everything transparent, made everything shared. It forced communication, real communication, honest communication. They could not avoid each other, could not ignore each other, could not pretend the other person did not exist. The bond demanded proximity, demanded interaction, demanded connection. So they talked, had to communicate, had to actually get to know each other beyond the terrible first impression, beyond the insults and anger and accident, beyond the disaster that brought them together. It forced understanding. They had to learn about each other, had to understand each other's cultures and values and perspectives, had to see past their initial assumptions and prejudices, had to recognize that the person they were bonded to was more complex than they had thought, more interesting, more worthy of respect. They had to actually know each other, actually see each other, actually recognize the person instead of the stereotype. Ryan learned about Catherine culture, really learned. Not just diplomatic briefings or cultural summaries. Deep learning, immersive learning, living it. He studied their art, found it beautiful, found it moving, found it expressed emotions and ideas in ways human art did not. He listened to their music, found it complex, found it sophisticated, found it resonated with something deep inside him. He read their history, found it rich, found it filled with triumphs and tragedies and complexity that rivaled human history. He studied their philosophy, found it profound, found it challenged his assumptions, found it offered perspectives he had never considered. Everything he had been told Catherines did not value, everything Sarah had claimed did not exist in human culture, he found in her culture, found it was there all along, found he had been looking at stereotypes instead of reality. Sarah learned about humans in return, about Earth, about the incredible diversity of human civilization, about the creativity that humans brought to everything they touched, about the stubbornness that made humans refuse to quit even when quitting was logical, about the adaptability that let humans thrive in conditions that would break other species, about the curiosity that drove humans to explore and question and innovate constantly, about the cooperation that let billions of humans work together despite their differences. She found it fascinating, found it impressive, found it admirable, found that humans were not primitive, were not uncivilized, were not barely worthy of notice, were complex and capable and valuable, were worth knowing, worth respecting, worth partnering with. Weeks became months. The awkwardness faded slowly, replaced by familiarity, by comfort, by genuine friendship that developed despite the strange circumstances. They learned each other's habits, each other's preferences, each other's quirks and humor and ways of thinking. They learned to read each other, to anticipate each other, to work together instead of against each other. Months became years. The friendship deepened, became something more, something neither had expected, something that went beyond the biological bond, beyond the chemical attachment, beyond the forced proximity and shared emotions. Feelings developed, real feelings, genuine feelings, not just the bond-forcing attachment, not just biology demanding connection, but actual human and Catherine emotions, affection that was chosen, respect that was earned, care that was genuine. They started to actually like each other, started to appreciate each other, started to value each other beyond the bond, beyond the obligation, beyond the necessity. Genuine affection grew. They enjoyed each other's company, looked forward to seeing each other, missed each other when separated, not just because the bond caused discomfort during separation, because they genuinely wanted to be together, wanted to share experiences, wanted to talk and laugh and exist in each other's presence. Genuine respect developed. Ryan respected Sarah's intelligence, her strength, her dedication to her people, her wisdom in ruling, her ability to balance tradition with progress. Sarah respected Ryan's integrity, his willingness to take responsibility, his commitment to learning, his refusal to take the easy path, his genuine effort to be a good bonded mate despite never wanting the role. Genuine love emerged. Neither could pinpoint exactly when it happened. When friendship became something deeper. When affection became love. When the bond-forced attachment became genuine chosen commitment. But it happened. Gradually. Naturally. Inevitably. They fell in love. Actually fell in love. Beyond biology. Beyond chemistry. Beyond the bond. Just two people from different worlds who learned to know each other and grew to love what they found. 5 years after the incident they ruled together. Ryan had the title of royal consort. Official position. Legal status. Authority and responsibility that went beyond being the Queen's bonded mate. He had learned to navigate Catherine politics, had learned to advise, had learned to contribute, had proven himself capable and valuable, had earned respect from most of the court through competence and dedication and genuine commitment to the kingdom's well-being. Sarah remained queen. Strong queen. Capable queen. But better with Ryan beside her. Better with his perspective. Better with his support. Better with partnership than she had been alone. They complemented each other. Balanced each other. Made each other better rulers. Better people. Better everything. They had created the strongest human-Catherine alliance in history. Built on their bond. Built on their relationship. Built on accident that became choice that became commitment that became love. Trade agreements. Cultural exchanges. Joint scientific projects. Military cooperation. Diplomatic ties. Everything. All because one human and one Catherine proved that the species could work together. Could understand each other. Could build something good together. Other species watched in amazement. Watched humans and Catherines cooperating in ways no one had predicted. Trading. Sharing culture. Learning from each other. Building alliances. Creating partnerships. All stemming from one bonded pair. One accident that became unity. One disaster that became opportunity. More cross-species relationships followed. Humans and Catherines discovering they were surprisingly compatible in many ways. Not just biologically. Culturally. Philosophically. Emotionally. They thought differently but complementarily. They valued different things but in ways that balanced. They approached problems from different angles but reached better solutions together. Young humans and Catherine started dating. Started bonding intentionally. Started choosing what Ryan and Sarah had stumbled into. Started building relationships across species lines. Started proving that compatibility went deeper than anyone had realized. A reporter came to interview them on their 5th anniversary. Human reporter. From Earth. Doing a documentary about human-alien relationships. About the most famous cross-species couple in known space. About the bond that changed everything. How did you become royal consort? The reporter asked Ryan. Standard question. Expected question. Question everyone wanted answered. Ryan laughed. Genuine laugh. Warm laugh. Laugh that showed how far they had come from that terrible day. I grabbed her tail in anger. Worst diplomatic mistake ever made in human history. Started as an accident. Nearly caused a war. Nearly got me executed. Nearly destroyed human-Catherine relations completely. Instead it caused a bond. Created partnership. Built alliance. Changed everything. Best worst mistake of my life. And you? The reporter asked Sarah. Do you regret the bond? Do you regret being bonded to Ryan? Do you wish it had never happened? Sarah smiled. Warm smile. Genuine smile. Smile that showed love clearly. She looked at Ryan. At her bonded mate. At her husband in all but human terminology. At the person who had become the center of her life despite the impossible beginning. I regret how it started, she said honestly. I regret the anger. The insults. The provocation. The accident. The pain and confusion and fear that came with it. I regret that neither of us chose this initially. That it was forced on us by biology and accident. But the result? She took his hand. Held it gently. Lovingly. Best accident that ever happened to us. Best thing that ever happened to me personally. Best thing that ever happened to our species collectively. I would not change it now. Would not undo it even if I could. Because it brought me him. Brought me love I never expected. Brought me partnership I never knew I needed. You love him, the reporter said. Statement not question. Obvious truth visible in Sarah's expression. In her body language. In the way she looked at Ryan. I do, Sarah confirmed. Deeply. Completely. Genuinely. Did not at first. Could not at first. The bond forced proximity but not affection. Chemistry but not emotion. But the bond gave us time. Gave us reason to know each other. Gave us opportunity to see past first impressions and stereotypes and cultural assumptions. And knowing led to liking. And liking led to respecting. And respecting led to loving. Now I cannot imagine my life without him. Cannot imagine ruling without his partnership. Cannot imagine existing without his presence. The bond started it. Love completed it. Ryan touched her tail gently. Deliberately. Lovingly. The gesture that had started everything. The gesture that had created this bond. The gesture that was now intimate. Affectionate. Welcome. Sarah leaned into the touch. Closed her eyes briefly. Smiled. responded to the touch with warmth and pleasure instead of shock and confusion. Does it still trigger the bond? The reporter asked. Curious. Technical question. Biological question. Always, Sarah said. Always will. The bond never stops responding to tail touch. The chemistry never becomes dormant. The neural pathways never deactivate. Every touch triggers the bonding hormones. Every contact reinforces the attachment. Every time he touches my tail, my brain floods with oxytocin and dopamine and everything that makes bonding permanent and powerful. But I do not mind anymore. I welcome it. I seek it. I want the bond reinforcement. Want the chemical connection. Want the reminder that we are bonded. That we are connected. That we are together. What was once accident is now choice. What was once forced is now welcome. What was once unwanted is now treasured. What advice would you give to other cross-species couples? The reporter asked. To people navigating relationships across species lines? Across cultural divides? Across all the challenges that come with loving someone fundamentally different from yourself. Give it time, Ryan said. We did not choose this bond initially. Did not want it. Did not ask for it. But we chose to make it work. Chose to stay. Chose to try. Chose to learn about each other. Chose to build something good from something terrible. That is the important part. Not how you start. How you continue. Not the circumstances that bring you together. The choices you make after. Not the accident. The response to the accident. We turned disaster into opportunity. Turned anger into love. Turned the worst mistake into the best decision. That is what matters. That is what makes relationships work across any divide. Choosing to try. Choosing to stay. Choosing to build together. Years later, their story was legend across the galaxy. The human diplomat who touched the Queen's tail and changed two species forever. The bond that started in rage and insult and accident. The bond that became love. The bond that became unity. The bond that proved cross-species relationships were possible. Were valuable. Were worth pursuing. The accident that became destiny. The disaster that became triumph. The worst diplomatic mistake that became the best diplomatic achievement in human history. They had children eventually. 3 children. Half human, half Catherine. Genetic marvels. Living proof that humans and Catherines were not just compatible for bonding but compatible for reproduction. The children were beautiful. Unique. Combined the best features of both species. Combined human adaptability with Catherine grace. Combined human curiosity with Catherine wisdom. They became symbols. Proof that compatibility went beyond biology and chemistry and bonding. Went to the deepest levels. Went to creating new life. Creating future. Creating family. Every year on their bonding anniversary, Ryan would touch Sarah's tail. The same gesture. The same action that had started everything. But gentle now. Intentional now. Loving now. Not angry grab but tender touch. Not accident but choice. Not violation but intimacy. And trigger the bond all over again. Trigger the flood of bonding hormones. Trigger the reinforcement of their connection. Trigger the reminder of what they had built together from the worst possible beginning. Because what started as the worst mistake became the best decision. What started as rage and anger became love and partnership. What started as accident and disaster became destiny and unity. What started as the thing that nearly destroyed everything became the thing that built everything. 2 species. 2 cultures. 2 people. Learning that sometimes the best things come from the worst beginnings. That sometimes disasters are opportunities. That sometimes accidents are destiny. That sometimes you just need to choose to make something work. To take responsibility. To stay when running would be easier. To try when giving up would be simpler. To see possibility instead of just seeing problem. That was the human way. Making the best of mistakes. Refusing to quit. Taking disasters and turning them into opportunities. Taking anger and turning it into love. Taking accidents and turning them into destiny. Building unity from division. Building love from hatred. Building possibility from impossibility. And 2 species learned from 1 human and 1 Catherine that sometimes the galaxy changes because someone touched a tail in anger and chose to stay instead of run. Chose responsibility instead of escape. Chose to build instead of destroy. And that choice changed everything. For them. For their species. For the galaxy.